Hey there everybody, what's going on? It's PokeLee. So today what I'm going to be doing is going over some things from the game. If you don't want to see, you should stop now. Hopefully you didn't see anything too spoilerish, but I'm going to be going into the Paradox Pokemon. So for those of you who don't know, in Pokemon Scarlet, there's some Pokemon from the past, and these will be the ones up on top that have photosynthesis, and then there's Pokemon from the future which will be in Violet, which are these ones with Quark Drive. So let me start from the top right here. Now first, before I get too far into it, I should explain what these abilities are. So I guess first I'll just say what the abilities are. So the ability is photosynthesis, and what this does is if they come out in harsh sunlight, then their highest stat gets boosted, right? So, for Great Tusk, for example, you could boost your attack and it'll go up one stage, so 50%. I should mention also that the box legendary, the Myrmidon or whatever its name is, he sets the sun. He's a fighting and dragon type, or dragon fighting type. He sets the sun and gets boosted from the sun as well. So that would be the perfect, thing to match up with these guys. And the Quark Drive is the same thing, but with electric terrain. So their highest stats, like Iron Hands here, I think its attack would get boosted if it was in electric terrain. And the legendary from that one, which is a Dragon Electric, sets electric terrain and gets boosted from electric terrain as well. Now I wanted to do an analysis of the individual Pokemon and sort of comparing them to their origins, right? So Great Tusk, I'm not going to show the icon because the game hasn't come out yet and I don't want to get in trouble and get my video taken down. But it's this is basically the prehistoric version of Donphan. So what I wanted to do was compare keeping in mind the ability and the typing, because the typing has changed, compare them to their origins, right? Their original form. So with Donphan here, his original ability was either Sturdy or Sandveil, although most people would use Sturdy. Sturdy prevents one-hit KO moves and also prevents you from dying from one hit. You'll live on 1 HP. And instead it has here photosynthesis. And instead of ground, it's ground fighting, which I believe may be the first time we've ever had that combination. So let's look at the stats of Donphan. So here at BST, this is the base stats. This is all the stats added together. It's 570. Originally it was 500, so we definitely have a boost. Now let's go through it one by one. The original HP was 90. It's been boosted to 115, so that's a great boost because Donphan's always been a really bulky Pokemon. The attack, which was 120, has been boosted all the way up to 131, which is tremendous. And the same for the defense. They both have the same attack and defense, but here it's been boosted up to 131 instead of 120. The special attack was 60 and it's now 53, which is great because those points are better served somewhere else. It doesn't do you any good because it's so low. Special defense was 60 and is now 53, which kind of sucks because you're a little bit more frail. I mean, you're really frail to special attacks. And the speed, which was 50, went up to 87, which is great. It's great. You're going to be outspeeding or, in the same tier as a lot of Pokemon, which could be threats to you. So overall, this is a tremendous, and that's not even keeping in mind photosynthesis. You come out on the sun and you could boost your attack or defense. This is a tremendous upgrade. If this thing, you see it's ground and fighting, if it gets body press, just imagine body press uses your defense as your attacking stat. It's an 80 base power, But if you boosted your defense, you could have a hellacious body press, stab, same type as base, so you get an extra 50% on top of that, and you have just amazing bulk. This thing could be incredible, like the premier rock setter and spinner, and even fighting type. So this thing is a tremendously good Pokemon. Now, on to the next Pokemon. There is another form, by the way, of Donphan. It's a future form, so we'll look at that one later. But the next one here, Brute Bonnet, is a new form of Amoonguss. So Amoonguss, if you guys have played, I'm sure you know, has Regenerator. Every time you take it out, it heals. And apparently they've changed it. I'm not sure. It's rumored. But I want to go into things that are actually known rather than rumored. So its original abilities were Effect Spore and Regenerator, two great abilities. Effect Spore, when you hit them, you have like a 30% chance of either being paralyzed, poisoned, or put to sleep. But I think I'm missing one too, right? Paralyzed, poison, sleep, burned. And the other ability is Regenerator, which is what most people use on there. So let's look at the stats. Excuse me. So originally this Pokemon was very bulky, right? People kind of cheesed the Regenerator and got by on there. Here, so let's just say go one by one for this. So the HP was 114. It's been dropped to 111, which is, a little minor drop. The attack, which was 85, got boosted all the way up to 127. So it's a huge jump. I mean, this thing hits harder than Galarian Zapdos, which is kind of ridiculous. And that's without a boost. And then the defense was 70. It got boosted up to 99. So it's actually better defensively than it was before. Special attack was 85. And it's now down to 79. So a little bit of a drop there. The special defense was 80. It got boosted to 99. So its defenses actually got better, although it lost Regenerator, which is an important part of its being. And its speed, which was 30, got boosted to 55, which kind of sucks because it's a bit of a no man's land where you're not really slow enough for Trick Room, and you're not really fast enough to exploit the fact that you're not slow as balls. This Pokemon, it's definitely not on the same level as Great Tusk, which is a tremendously good Pokemon. Brute Bonnet, it has the typing originally was grass and poison, right? And you actually can see the type chart right here, and you could see it's got quite a few resistances here, and it's neutral to bug because the poison type resist and the grass is weak. Here you have grass and dark. Each is weak to bug, so you have a 4 times weakness to bug. That means U-turn will destroy you. U-turn will absolutely destroy you if it's done from a strong attacker. It's not really good. And in fact, if you think photosynthesis, you want to get this 127 boost, right? You want to get that boosted up. If you do that, I should mention, actually, so it can be either from the sun or from some new item called Energy Booster. You could have that and use it up to boost your stats one time. But if you come out during the sun, first off, you're a grass type, right? So you're putting yourself in supreme danger if anybody's got a fire move or weather ball or anything like that. Yeah, I mean, like I said, you were very slow. So anybody has U-turn, you're just going to get annihilated from that U-turn. Yeah, I mean, overall, I would definitely I definitely feel like this is a downgrade from the original form, even though the base stats are higher and it's got higher defense and special defense. Now, the one good thing is I believe the original form does have synthesis. So if you do, let's say you go out and something there does U-turn and you know you're going to survive. If you use synthesis in the sun, you'll essentially get a complete full heal because synthesis and moonlight and morning sun, these are all healing moves. They're boosted by having intense sun. So that is the one plus side to that. But anyhow, let's move on to, and I'm going to close this tab right here. So this one, Brute Bonnet, I think is one of the weaker ones. Sandy Shocks, right? This is the past form of Magneton. And Magneton is its abilities, its premier ability is Magnet Pull. It prevents a steel type from moving out. So if somebody had a Corviknight or something of that kind, you go in and now they're not going anywhere. They can't switch out and you just thunderbolt them to death. It also had sturdy, so it couldn't be killed in one hit, or analytic, which is important because it's essentially the same as photosynthesis. But let me go look at the stats, right? We'll compare the stats with this, and then we'll go back and we will look at Magnezone, which is the evolution, and also compare that. So the HP was 50, and it's been boosted to 85. Oh, first off, the typing. So it's a steel electric, or electric steel, and now it's electric and ground. Is it kind of weird typing? I mean, you got the Stunfisk typing. I don't know. I mean, the problem, electric is a really good type. Oh, by the way, I'm skipping over Pikachu because Pikachu is placeholder. I think it's supposed to be Virizion or Suicune, but we don't have that information yet. I don't want to really delve into it, so it's placeholder. So the electric is a really great typing because, a lot like normal, it only has one weakness, and its one weakness is ground. The problem is that ground does not neutralize the ground weakness. Ground is neutral against neutral. Ground is neutral against ground. So being a ground electric, you're still hit 2 times the power for a ground attack. So Earthquake's going to mess this guy up still. But anyways, so onto the stats. So it was 50 HP. It's been boosted up to 85. The attack doesn't really matter. Was 60 and it's gone up to 81. Nobody ever uses attack. Defense was 95 and it's gone up to 97. So almost no difference there. Special attack 120. It's been boosted 1 point and 121, which is nothing. Special defense was 70 and it's got boosted up to 85. And then the speed, which was 70, has been boosted up to 101, which is really the most notable change. Now, the thing is that there really hasn't been a whole lot of significant changes, considering that you could just run Magneton with an Eviolite, and your defense and special defense will be boosted up 50%. You'll probably be more bulky than this thing. Your special attack is analytic boosted, so there's going to be no difference between the photosynthesis, and the main difference, I guess, would just be the speed, which, kind of would be disappointing, especially considering that this thing does have an evolution, right? So let's look at at Magnezone, right? So here's Magnezone, the evolution, and let's look at the stats here, right? And if you compare these stats, so this is a base 535 versus 570, so this thing should be better, right? It has more HP, the attack, it's got more attack, which kind of sucks. The defense is worse. The defense is worse on Sandy Shocks than it is on Magnezone. The special attack at 121 is worse than Magnezone at 130. The special defense is also worse. I mean, its HP is a little bit better, so I mean it probably equals out or gets close to it, and the speed, of course, is better. So I don't know. I mean, I guess you have a faster Magneton that doesn't have magnet pull or sturdy or analytic. I mean, instead has photosynthesis, which is essentially the same deal. So I don't know. I feel like this one's a little weak, and it doesn't really seem to take advantage of the fact that you're there in the sun. You're electric and ground. I don't know. You're not, like I said, it would be nice if it, I don't know. I guess electric and fire, you'd still be 4 times weak to earthquake. But anyways, moving on to Scream. I'll keep this like this for now. Screamtail. Okay. That is actually Jigglypuff. But I'm just going to look at the evolution Wigglytuff, because they're both kind of similar in the fact that they have almost no stats outside of HP. So here we go. Generation 6 onwards. So it's 435 base HP, so not really huge. Screamtail. It went from normal fairy to being fairy psychic. Base HP was 140, which is gigantic, and it's been cut down to 115. The attack was 70. That's been cut down too to 65. Defense was 45, and that's been boosted up to 99, which is interesting, right? It's a doubling of the defense, more than doubling of the defense, although you're losing out on HP. So effectively, it's probably like a double, maybe a little bit less. Special attack was 85, and it's been cut all the way down to 65. So offensively, this thing is not a threat, right? At least with traditional damage. Special defense was 50, and it's been boosted all the way up to 115. So now it's actually more. Well, I mean, I guess it always was more specially defensive, but yeah, its special defense is doubled essentially, and its speed, it went all the way up to 111. So this is really interesting, and this is something I had been thinking about for a while. It would be interesting, is what I thought. It'd be interesting to have a fast, bulky Pokemon. And they've never, as far as I know, have never had that, outside of legendaries, which are bulky, fast, and hit hard as hell. But, a standard Pokemon being fast and bulky is very interesting. So maybe this thing could maybe set up rocks, set status. I'm not sure if this thing gets soft-boiled or not. Maybe it could get Moonlight and take advantage of photosynthesis. Maybe it could come out on, I don't know what you would want to boost it. Really, the only thing that looks viable would be the special defense, and you'd be like a special defensive wall. You'd be like a Blissey, essentially. But a Blissey that's fast as balls. So it could be interesting. Now, I keep scrolling down, sorry. The next one I'm going to go to is Fluttermane. So Fluttermane is Misdrevious, right? But Misdrevious has an evolution, Mismagius, and that's what I'm going to look at because it has the higher base stats. Whoops, I clicked on it. So let's go look at the stats. Oh, first, before I go, so it was just a ghost type, and its ability was Levitate. So if you look at the stats here, right, they're kind of strange. It's just 55 and 135, right? So HP, attack, and defense is 55. Special attack, special defense, and speed is 135. And you think, oh, that's kind of crazy. Why would they do that? Well, if you look at Miss Magius, it was 60 HP, 60 attack, 60 defense, and then 105 special attack, 105 special defense, and 105 speed. So they basically mirrored the same thing and just gave it, cut off 5 from HP, attack, and defense, and threw the rest all on its offensive stats, its special attack and special defense and speed. So this is Ghost and Fairy, two of the most offensive types you can be, right? Like if you think about Dragapult, Dragapult kind of terrorized the OU ladder with Shadow Ball. It was fast as hell. It's like 142 base speed, and however, it was only base 100 special attack. This is base 135 special attack, which is a gigantic special attack. It's base 135 speed, and this is before photosynthesis comes to play. So you can be throwing off heinous shadow balls. I mean, after you get your photosynthesis boost, I think this is a scarier threat than Blacephalon ever was. On top of that, you have your Ghost. On top of that, you also have Fairy. You could be sending. I know it gets Dazzling Gleam. At least its original form did, but it may get Moonblast, and that's just a scary combo. It's just super fast and super powerful. And photosynthesis, how it works is if it's set by the sun, you could have any item you want. So this thing could have that 135 base attack boosted by the sun and have choice specs. So essentially, you're going to have 270 base power shadow balls, which will just destroy anything that's not a normal, or even a dark is not going to like that, because it's going to be essentially back to dark would cut that in half, but that half would still be the 135 base power. So that's ridiculous. This thing is going to be a major threat that people are going to have to keep in mind. If you're going to be able to hit, if you're going to need to have some kind of priority, like Bullet Punch. You're going to need to have Pokemon with Bullet Punch, because this thing will wipe you out. Anyways, moving on, let's go over to Slitherwing. So Slitherwing is it's actually Larvesta, not Volcarona, but Volcarona's stats more closely align with it. So Volcarona, everybody should know this. It's bug and fire type. Its main ability is Flame Body. That's what everybody uses instead of its hidden ability, Swarm. So if somebody hits it, they get burned. It just was a major threat because it sets up so well with Quiver Dance. So let's look at the stats. Let's see, where was Slitherwing? So it was Bug Fire, now becomes Bug Fighting. So Bug Fighting, Buzzwole is the main creature you think of with Bug Fighting. What is it? Dang, it was from Generation 2. Well, anyways, moving on. Let's compare the stats. I guess the main weakness of Bug Fighting, though, is you're 4 times weak to flying type moves. But stats wise, HP was 85, still 85. Attack, the attack was 60, but the special attack was 135. Now it's a physical attacker at 135. The defense was 65, and that's been boosted to 79, so it's more physically defensive. The special attack, like I said before, was 135, and in this form, there's 2 forms, by the way, a past and a future. In this form, the special attack has been dropped to 85. So it could still do some special attack, but you got such monstrous attack, I don't really think you're going to be exploiting that. Special defense was 105 and still is. And speed, this is a big one. It was 100 and it's now 81. So, I mean, I mentioned Buzzwole before. I think you're pretty close. You're pretty close in speed with Buzzwole, right? Let me just look it up. I don't know if Buzzwole has been released. I don't think any of these Pokemon have been released or will be released in the new game. But okay, so Buzzwole is 79, right? And here you are at 81. So just a hair faster than Buzzwole. However, you don't have the bulk that Buzzwole has outside of your special defense. But anyways, I mean, with photosynthesis, I don't think there's any way you're boosting your speed over your attack. Now, if this thing got some kind of dance that could increase the speed and attack and defense, you know, sort of a quiver dance equivalent, then this thing could be really scary. The main weakness, other than the typing, I guess, would be the... I mean, well, I don't know exactly. The typing isn't terrible, except for one thing. If you're using photosynthesis with the sun, you're a bug type, right? You're going to get melted. Even with your special defense boost, the sun-boosted fire attack is going to destroy you. So... I don't know. This one's a bit mixed. Yeah. But you know, as I said before, if you can, if you have some sort of defense boosting and speed boosting setup, and attack boosting would be nice, of course. If you had a physical equivalent of Quiver Dance, this thing could be really threatening because, you know, if you're boosting your defense, that's your main weakness outside of your speed, which you'd also be boosting. It could be a major threat. And on top of that, if you're boosted by the sun, hurricanes are only 50% accurate. So, yeah, that is interesting. I'm going to keep this open because there is another version. There's a future version as well as this past version. So, let me go over to essentially the star of the photosynthesis users. So that would be Salamence. Now this, if you see right here, it's 590 base compared to 570, which sounds nice and all, except for the fact that he was a pseudo legendary who had base 600. So there is some cut, but we're going to go take a look at it. So his original ability was Intimidate, and his hidden ability was Moxie. Both of these are fantastic abilities. He learns Dragon Dance. That Dragon Dance increases your speed and your attack. So he could come on and do a Dragon Dance, and he kills people with Moxie. That increases your attack one stage for everything you kill. So if you just do one Dragon Dance, and now you're faster than everything. Everything you kill just makes it easier to continue to kill. And this thing gets a roost, so he could heal up along the way. Also, if he could come in with Intimidate, and then be free to set up because your attack has been cut by 50% or 25%, right? So, anyways, these abilities are fantastic. But let's go look at the stats right here. So let's see. So Roaring Moon, he is now a Dragon and Dark type. Was previously Dragon and Flying. His HP was 95 and is now 105. His attack was 135 and still... Well, actually, no, it got boosted to 139. his defense was 80, and it's been knocked down to 71. His special attack, which actually I guess is something to keep in mind, considering you don't have Intimidate anymore to knock down their attack one stage. So the special attack, this is where the huge cut came in. Special attack was 110, and it is now 55. So, now you know where all those points were taken out of. Yeah, I mean, the sad thing is that he had some use being a mixed attacker, or even just being a pure special attacker. And if he's coming out with the sun boosting his flamethrowers, I mean, that would have been nice to actually have that stat there, but they've moved him to essentially a purely physical attacker, because base 55, you're not doing anything with that, sun or no. His SPDEF was 80, it's now 101, so that's a boost. And crucially, his speed was 100. That's been boosted to 119. So his speed has been improved, his attack has been improved, he has protosynthesis, his previous form had roost, and maybe his next form does too. Hold on, I need to drink some water. So what this means now is that he is the second fastest non-legendary dragon in the entire game. So Dragapult is the fastest at 142. Of course, you do one dance off and now you're faster. And but the one actually, so at base 100, he was pretty fast. I mean, his stats, what was funny is he came out, the next generation, Garchomp came out, and basically was better than him at everything except for special attack, and his speed was like 108, so he just barely outsped him and kind of overshadowed him. Now he's coming back with 119 base speed. RIP Garchomp, right? This is tremendous. I mean, the main weakness, it kind of sucks that you're coming out with the sun up and you can't take advantage of it outside of the stat boost. I mean, if you're looking at all of these Pokemon here, none of these photosynthesis Pokemon seem to be able to take advantage of the sun that they require to get their boost. But that being said, that 139 attack is gonna get boosted to the moon when he does get his boost. He's already gonna come out with monstrous power. So all he really needs to do is like agility, and he's gonna outspeed everything, and he's gonna be strong as hell. Dragon and Dark are two pretty good offensive moves. I mean, you get walled by fairies, but other than that, you're going to be pretty good. So if he had some kind of, I don't know, Iron Head or Steel Wing, something like that, he would do pretty well. So moving on. So these are the protosynthesis Pokemon. So now let's move on to the we're going to move on to the future form. So these are the ones with Quark Drive, right? So this is Donphan stats here again. We'll compare Donphan stats to his original form. So instead of just being pure ground, he is now ground steel. And let me just show you for people who are not as familiar. That's Donphan right there, okay? So his base HP was 90, and still is 90. His base attack was 120, and it got dropped down to 112. which is essentially like Hippowdon. I think Hippowdon has around the same power. And Hippowdon's not really known as a physical threat, so that's not good. His defense is the same at 120. The special attack got boosted, which is just a way for Game Freak to ferret out points that they don't want to use anywhere else, because you're not using that 72 base special attack. The special defense did get a little boost from 60 to 70, so you still don't want to get special attacks, but it won't be quite as bad. But your speed was 50, and it's now gotten boosted up to 106. So with this setup, you could optimize your EVs to boost either your speed, your defense, or your attack. So I guess maybe it won't be so bad if you do have your attack boosted by electric terrain. I guess the main problem is that you are a ground and steel type in electric terrain. You're not really taking advantage of that. Now, you could switch in on an electric user, right? This Iron Treads, it does seem like a great counter to the legendary from this game, the dragon and electric type, right? Because dragon is not very effective against steel, and electric does not affect ground. So he would be an excellent counter. You come in there and get a boost off of the opponent's Pokemon as they're trying to set up their own team. So that is interesting. And comparing him to the rest of the team, if he throws off an Earthquake as they try to switch, well, that's going to destroy Iron Moth here. That's going to hurt Iron Hands. That's going to, well, not do anything to Iron Jugless, but it will kill Iron Thorns, who's 4 times weak to it. And yeah, so he does counter a lot of the people who would take advantage of electric terrain. So it would be, on its own, it's not one of the stronger ones. However, as a counter, he may be very good still. So comparing him to the Great Tusk, the past version, the ground fighting, I definitely feel like the ground fighting is a more interesting version, right? It's bulkier, it hits harder, and you know, the typing is a little bit more interesting to me. But this could still be a more technical play just to try to counter team. So it could still be interesting. So moving on to the next one, the next version of Volcarona. So this one is actually based on the evolved form. And it actually closely matches. It's instead of bug and fire, it is now fire and poison. So, I mean, the main problem is that you're 4 times weak to earth. So Earthquake is just going to destroy you. But let's look at the stats. And here's what sucks is your fire type, but you got Quark Drive. If this fire poison had switched places with the other one, which was the bug and fighting, that would be a lot more interesting. Because then you fire boosted by the sun. But anyways, maybe it started off that way and they had to switch it because it was just too powerful. But the HP was originally 85, and here it's 80. The attack was 60, and now it's been boosted by 70, which is a bit of a waste. Defense was 65, and it's dropped to 60. Special attack was 135, and it's been boosted to 140. Special defense was 105, and now it's been boosted slightly to 110, but since the HP is at 80, I don't think that actually makes any difference. And the speed which was 100, is now 110. So what this means is you don't need quite as many dragon dances, right? Quiver dance. If you quiver dance, you're starting from a base 110 and also 140. And if you're in electric terrain, that 140 is going to be monstrous already. I mean, you may not even need to quiver dance. You may just come in there with a choice scarf and start killing things right away. If you have electric terrain. So, I mean, fire is great offensively. Poison is great against unaware Pokemon who might come in if they see you setting up. This is a really great threat. I mean, it's so powerful that I wouldn't be surprised if they took Quiver Dance away from it. That 140 base special attack is really huge. But anyways, let's move on to the next. Well, actually, you know what? Let's kind of look at it compared to the previous, what was it? Slitherwing. So bug fighting versus fire poison, right? I mean, looking at the two of them, I mean, there are so many attackers. This thing has the highest special attack out of all of the people on the list, but this thing here does not have the highest attack, even of the ones in its own game, right? In Scarlet. So I definitely feel like this Iron Moth is the stronger of the two. So anyways, let's move on to one of the stars of the show. I think this is one of the premier Pokemon of the Violet version, Hariyama, or the past form of Hariyama. So originally, Hariyama, his abilities are Thick Fat, which halves the damage you take from fire or ice moves, and Guts, which if you get burned, now you do 50% more damage. And his hidden ability was Sheer Force, which you guys have seen me use, but what it does is it takes away the secondary effects. So let's say you use Force Palm. Force Palm is an attack that has a chance to paralyze. It no longer will paralyze, but additionally, if you have a Life Orb, that Life Orb will no longer take your health. And it will stack, doing 1.3 times 1.3, so 1.69 times damage. So it's like a Mega Guts. But let's look at this. Let's look at its stats here, right? So Iron Hands, it went from being just a pure fighting type to being fighting and electric, which is really interesting because we've never had that combo before. And suddenly flying types are not so scary because, well, one is you resist it because of electricity, but two, you're in electric terrain and you're electric. No one's sending a flying type in there. They'd have to be crazy. So he was originally base 474. Even though these stats look amazing, it comes at the cost of speed. That's really why he's so bulky. But his original HP was 144. Here it's 154. His base attack was 120, and here it's 140, right? So just as high as Iron Moth had special attack, he has physical attack. Defense was 60. Now it's 108. All right, this is huge. 154 HP is gigantic, and 108 defense on top of that means that he's going to be surviving almost any physical attack. I think pretty much any physical attack. Like Earthquake is not going to kill this guy. He's just going to be too powerful. I mean, that defense plus HP is just ridiculous. But anyhow, let's move on. His special attack was 40, and I guess they felt he was too powerful, so they threw 10 points away into a special attack, and his new special attack is 50. His special defense was 60, and now it's got a little boost to 68. And you know what? Every little thing counts, because when you have 154 base HP, that 68 goes a long way. He's gonna surprise people with what he lives through on the special side. And his speed is 50, right? So here, his speed was unchanged. This Pokemon is a tremendous Pokemon. This Pokemon is one of my favorites on the whole list. 154 HP is going to make this thing bulky as hell. It's going to survive quite a lot and surprise people. You're going to be boosting your attack, most likely. I mean, I don't know if you could fiddle around and boost your defense, but you really want to boost your attack, because he's fighting, and one of the great fighting moves is Drain Punch. So somebody hits you, bam, you hit them back hard as hell and get a little bit of HP back. Maybe you also have leftovers, right? And leftovers doesn't give you a set amount. It gives you a percentage of your HP. And considering how huge his HP is, leftovers will do tons for him. Keep in mind, he has quark drives, right? So he comes out on electric terrain. He is electric type. There's no way he's not going to have an electric move, right? So if he Thunder Punches, that Thunder Punch is going to hurt tremendously to everything that doesn't resist it. But considering how high his HP is, he can even do Wild Charge. Wild Charge is an electric attack. Hits much harder. However, you get 1/4 the damage in recoil. But considering how his HP would dwarf anything he's going to attack outside of like a Blissey, that 1/4 recoil is going to be inconsequential. So this is a really, really powerful, really strong Pokemon. This one is like I said, one of the very best on this list. But anyways, let's move on to the one that is not the best. Hydreigon. So they have a future version of Hydreigon. Hydreigon was a dark dragon, which they took that typing and put that on Roaring Moon. But he was a dark dragon with the ability Levitate. So they took that and made him dark and flying. Let's take a look at his stats, right? He was a pseudo legendary, so his base stats were 600 before. But now he's 570, right? So let's look at where they took it out from. His HP originally was 92 and is now 94. His attack was 105, respectable attack. That got dropped down to 80. So essentially what this means is those people running unconventional sets like Dragon Dance and Ice Fang. I mean, he was viable as a mixed attacker or as a physical attacker, but not really anymore. So they took away his attack. His defense was 90, and now his defense is 86. So a little marginal difference there. His special attack was 125, and that's actually been dropped down to 122. His special defense was 90, and now his special defense is 80. So that's another cut. And his speed was 98, and it's now 108. So basically, all of his stats have been dropped. All of the stats have been dropped. I mean, the 2 HP doesn't really matter when your defense and special defense are weaker. So I consider basically this to be a drop across the board, except for his speed. And while it's nice that he's moving up a little bit in the speed tiers, he's not really moving up dramatically. Not enough to make up for everything he's lost. On top of that, Dragon type is a great type, right? It has so many resistances. It resists fire, it resists electric, which he's going to be in electric terrain, and it resists water, and it resists grass. Its only weaknesses are dragon, ice, and fairy. Now it's a dark. It's a dark and flying. It's flying in electric terrain. I mean, just think about how much that sucks. Somebody switches in, and there's plenty of fast electrics, and you're screwed, right? I mean, even what is it? Even Pokemon, which you wouldn't expect, anything that has terrain pulse is going to be able to kill you. So, I mean, yeah, this is a drop. This guy's not as good. I mean, with Quark Drive, your special attack will be boosted, so you will hit harder and you will go faster, but I just don't like the idea of a flying type relying on electric terrain, because one, it boosts what you're weak to, and two, you're flying, so even if you wanted to, even if you had some move that could take advantage of the electric terrain, you're not on the electric terrain to even use it. So electric terrain here is a hindrance. So I feel like this is weak. This is a weak Pokemon. Moving on with weak Pokemon is unfortunately Tyranitar. Now, Tyranitar is another pseudo-legendary. It's rock and dark type. It has Sandstream as its premier ability. You know, it also has Unnerve, but no one uses that. Sandstream really is the best. And let's go look at its stats. So it's a pseudo-legendary. Its base stat's 600. Now here, its base stat is 570. So let's look at the breakdown and go through it. So one thing to keep in mind is that it being rock type and it being able to set the sand meant that its special defense is actually 50% greater than the stat is here. And we'll get into that later. So it's rock electric, which means that it's going to die to any earth move. It's 4 times weak to earth. But anyways, its HP was 100 and it's still 100. Its attack was 134 and is 134. Its defense was 110 and is 110. Its special attack was 95 and that's dropped down to 70. Now, think about how I mentioned before about Dragapult terrorizing the tier with its base 100 special attack. Tyranitar could do some work with its 95 special attack, with Ice Beam on, Landorus and other things like that. This one here is not going to be doing anything really with its special attack. So that kind of sucks. I mean, it's not huge because most people use it physical and it's got monstrous physical attack, but it still kind of sucks. But here is something that is much bigger. Its special defense was base 100 and it's now 84. So if you think base 100 HP, base 100 special defense, which gets boosted to essentially 150 because of it setting sand, this thing was amazingly bulky and is no longer. It's, pretty normal, I would say. And its speed, which was 61, is now 72. So that kind of sucks. The good news is that it is an electric type that takes advantage of the electric terrain for Quark Drive. You're a little bit faster, so let's say you come out in electric terrain, you Dragon Dance, and instead of being base 61, you're base 72. Maybe you outspeed a few more things. And you can just throw off Hellacious Thunder Punches or whatever electric move you may have. So this thing is still viable, but it definitely seems like it's a parallel, maybe even slightly below the original form. You got to keep in mind it has that Quark Drive. That Quark Drive will, give it essentially choice band power without being choice banded. So you could essentially be like a choice banded Tyranitar who can Dragon Dance. But of course, you wouldn't be a weakness policy Tyranitar, because you're just not as bulky. I mean, I guess you could be, but you better hope that they don't have any ground move, because you're going to die with that weakness policy. But anyways, moving on. And we have Delibird. Hold on, I'm going to get another drink of water. So Delibird is another Generation 2 Pokemon. It's a weirdo Pokemon that really should have gotten an evolution, but they never did it. And here they gave it an alternate form, which, is kind of bad news for those people who are hoping for a new form. So it was ice and flying, and now it's ice and water. And let's take a look at these stats, but it being a Generation 2 Pokemon that didn't evolve, it's not really that good. It was a gimmick Pokemon, but yeah, see, it was base 330, which is just terrible. I mean, look, Pikachu is base 320, so that should give you an idea of where it's at, and it doesn't have anything like Light Ball. But HP was 45. Now that's been boosted to 56. Attack was 55. That's been boosted to 80. Defense. This is gigantic. Defense was 45, and that's been boosted to 114. So it has very high defense, although the HP kind of limits the usefulness of that. Special attack was 65, and that's been boosted to 124. I mean, that's nearly a doubling. The special defense was 45, and that's been boosted to 60. Still sucks. But its speed was 75, and it's been boosted to 136. So this is the fastest of all of the Pokemon on this list. And ice and water is not a bad typing to have. It being ice hopefully has access to freeze dry, which is a tremendously powerful move. I mean, in the fact that it's super effective against water types as well. So things that would normally normally wall ice no longer do. So like a Gastrodon comes in and you're going to destroy him, or just a normal ice type was going to come in and they're going to get hurt really badly too. This Pokemon, it could boost, depending on the stat distribution, could boost speed, obviously, and just outspeed everything. It could boost the special attack. It could boost the defense, maybe, but who would want to do that? I just think when you look at this Pokemon and look at its stats, it really reminds me of Kartana, especially if you got the Quark Drive boost to your special attack. It would be like a special Kartana, right? Kartana has low HP and high defense, and nothing as far as special defense. Of course, Kartana is nowhere near as fast. I think he's like 109 speed versus 136. So this thing could be, this thing could be a proper sweeper. It'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. I mean, I'm just thinking of priority. I guess Bullet Punch would destroy this thing, but Mach Punch is neutral damage. So, I mean, it does have very high defense. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. This thing could be a threat. And now moving on to the new Gallade. It's actually Gallade and Gardevoir blended into one. And Gallade, I mean, if you look at him, he's one of the most badass looking Pokemon. But unfortunately, he just, I don't know, things haven't really worked out for him. He hasn't really been that viable. But all right, let's look at the stats. So he was base 518, so he's definitely getting a boost here because you see his base here is 590. The typing, so Gallade was originally Psychic and Fighting, and his counterpart was Psychic and Fairy. So what they did is they essentially ripped out Psychic and just put the two secondary types together and made him Fairy Fighting. Yeah, so let's look at the stats here, right? So he was 68 HP, and now it's moved up to 74, which is definitely a nice to have boost. The attack was 125, and that's been boosted a little bit to 130. The defense was 65, and that's been boosted up to 90. So he's definitely more defensive than he was before, although it's not like tremendously defensive. His special attack was 65, and now it's been boosted up to 120, right? So it's getting on the level of his monstrous attack. 120 is a really good special attack. I mean, you look at the other things, 140 are monstrous, but this 120 is really good. He's got 60 special defense when he originally had 115. So, he's definitely special defensively frail. But his speed, which was 80, has been boosted up to 116, which is a huge improvement. So this Pokemon here is tremendous, I think. This Pokemon has a tremendous potential. It's such a great mixed attacker. And with these stats here, 116, 120, 130, any one of them you could have boosted by Quark Drive. You could boost the speed, you could boost the special attack, or you could boost the attack. And interestingly, what you can do is a tactic that I've been trying to test out, which Gallade gets Future Sight. Gallade also gets Workup. And what Workup does is it increases your attack and special attack. So with this Iron Valiant, what it could do, comes in and gets the boost on whichever it may be, does Future Sight as they switch out. They bring something in to take the Future Sight and get a boosted close combat. And maybe they bring in something, and maybe you were on electric terrain and you had your eject pack on or whatever. You do close combat, you hit him with your boosted attack, and then your stats drop down, and you get swapped out. And if they happen to survive, it's somebody else who's taking the hit, not you. So that would be a great combo. Plus, they got that Future Sight coming off of base 120. Alternatively, you could just have other mixed attacks. If you are in electric terrain, hopefully you have some kind of electric move to take advantage of that. Fairy and Fighting, I mean, you don't want to be using Focus Blast because it could miss, but you could have, let's say, his base form gets close combat. Let me see. Yeah, here, see? So he's definitely going to have close combat. He could also have Moonblast. Or, you know, he's not really bulky enough for a Draining Kiss, but he could have Moonblast and then some other coverage, either physical or special, doesn't really matter. And with such low special defense, you could just sacrifice your special defense to boost, you know, one of your other major stats here, and be a real threat. A real threat that, you know, somebody's going to have to survive one of your attacks to counter, because there'd be no real switching around, either physical or special. So, yeah, that's my thought on them. So, if I had to look at the list again here, overall, I feel like keeping in mind the legendary for each one. For Scarlet, the legendary is a Sunsetter who is a dragon in fighting, so essentially can't take advantage of the sun. The legendary for Violet is a dragon and electric type, which I think has never been done before, and sets electric terrain, gets a boost from electric terrain, and is electric. It seems like a much better combo, on top of the fact that up here with the sun, it has numerous, I mean, it has a few Pokemon here that are weak to fire inside the sun, which is not good. I guess here you do have a couple weak to electric, but you have a couple electric that could take advantage of electric terrain. I feel like the Violet version is superior in that regard. Also, I mean, so here are the standouts to me. Great Tusk. Great Tusk looks very good. Very good. Let's see. Screamtail is interesting. May or may not be good. It's just interesting to have a fast, bulky Pokemon. But Fluttermane is going to be a dangerous threat that you guys are going to have to prepare for. And then Roaring Moon is really the standout. It's one of the strongest Pokemon in this entire list, maybe the strongest. That one is a standout. Now, down here, I think the biggest standout would be Iron Hands. Iron Hands is tremendous. Iron Hands really looks amazing. And on top of that, he's electric in electric terrain. It's just phenomenal. And I guess the other standout would be Iron Valiant, which was the Gallade one, which is cool having a viable mixed attacker. I mean, depending on the moveset and how the metagame works out and everything like that. So, yeah, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video or found it interesting or useful. If you did, let me know, and I'll do more in the future. Yeah, let me know what you thought. If there's anything that I missed that I should have touched on, if you want to see more of these about other Pokemon or anything like that, just go ahead and let me know in the comments. All right. Thanks for watching.